Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hello again, everybody. I'm Phil Wurz, President and CEO of the Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines. We're joined today by Kevin Drum. I don't know what to call you, Kevin. You're an owner, you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, you're a Renaissance man, you're a golfer, inspiring person, tourism advocate. Yeah. What do we call you? What do we call you?
You know, I'm a guy that wanted to get in the golf business, and I started my own golf marketing company, Drum Media Group. Worked for some of the top destinations in the country. A lot of people only know me as the owner of the Drum Quill,
right?
And but I had a past in the golf industry where I pioneered new companies coming into the market. I was kind of lucky because my dad was a golf writer, so I knew all the golf writers. So
of course,
it was a great guy for a golf equipment, golf apparel, or a golf company to hire. So that's how I started. My office was across the street from the Drum Quill, and I saw a bankrupt sign on that business and bought it. And so then I became a pub owner, but now that seems to be my legacy, the Drum Quill, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you have a unique passion for Pinehurst. You mentioned being the son of a sports writer. A lot of people know you, and for people that don't, I mean, your father was Bob Drum, a famously known golf writer, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, where you were born in Pittsburgh, came to attend Pinehurst when you were around 12. What was it like being the son of Bob Drum, CBS Sports? I remember watching as a kid all those years.
It was incredible. My birth was announced in the sports page. So I still have that article where, so whose birth is announced on the sports page? It was, at that time, it was the Pittsburgh Press. The Gazette was the late paper. Now they combined. But so my godfather was Art Rooney, who owned the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how my life started. So it's just, I mean, it frankly was an incredible journey being the son of a golf writer. I mean, we thought we were the richest people on earth because we had front row seats to everything. And but it's why I wanted to honor golf writers, because there's the hardcore golf writer doesn't exist as much. Used to travel with the players.
Yeah.
And so the Drum and Quill, sure, it honors my dad, Bob Drum, and the quill represents the pen that they use to write the stories. So it's really about honoring my dad, but it's about honoring all the golf writers here. That without golf writers, there wasn't this much live golf on TV. Without golf writers, we wouldn't have these great stories.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have that story on Gene Sarazen making that double eagle without a golf writer. And they're amazing. They were much more important back then, and I don't want anybody to forget them.
And they had personal relationships. I think now with the players, with social media and everything going on,
right,
they kind of keep an arm's length. But I mean, talk about the relationship. Your father had an incredible, personal, deep relationship with the king, Arnold Palmer. I mean, how cool was that?
Well, he first covered him at a Western Junior Amateur, and he didn't make it into match play, I don't believe. Arnold didn't. But my dad declared him he's going to be one of the best golfers in the world. And he got a lot of crap from his friends at the Pittsburgh Press, because Mike Suchak was really, he was kind of the guy. He had that perfect swing, and Arnold had that slash, and they didn't believe him. And then slowly but surely, my dad was chronicling Arnold's life, and then eventually, they were at a crossroads where, and 1960 when Arnold won the Masters and won the Open, and there's really no modern Grand Slam. There's only what Bobby Jones did, both amateurs and both Opens. And Arnold goes to my dad and says, "Drummer, what if I win the Open Championship?" Which you can't call it the British Open, or I get an elbow from my dad. And the PGA, his dad was a PGA professional, so the PGA was very important to Arnold Palmer. And my dad said that'd be like what Bobby Jones did. That'd be the Pro Grand Slam. And a lot of people thought about it. The Western Open was in the discussion. The Canadian Open was in discussion. But no one had the guts to step on the, Bobby Jones and recreate verbally in words.
Yeah.
Everybody was going for majors, but there was not 4 defined. So Jack always said, he had a great line in one interview. He said, the Pro Grand Slam didn't exist till Bob Drum and Arnold invented it, because I had more majors before then, because they used to count the amateur as a major.
Yeah.
So we kind of took some majors from people by inventing the Pro Grand Slam, because the U.S. Amateur was one of the fabled events that Bobby Jones, that's the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Just to be honest with
Sure.
you. What they're doing now is the Pro Grand Slam that Arnold inspired and my dad kind of coined with Arnold. I mean, my dad didn't do it by himself. It was kind of like, a lot of people were thinking about it, but he had the guts to put it out there. And he did it when they were at the British Open, and the British press have a way of really exploding things. And
they still do.
Yeah, and they exploded it. And the funniest part is the Pittsburgh press didn't even pay for my dad to go to that tournament. Arnold did. So, so it's just that by itself is an amazing story. I mean, and Jack kind of confirms it, because the amateur should be a major in my mind. You're building, you're beating the best amateurs, and I don't know if you see how they set up those courses for those amateurs. The tees are farther back than the pros. I mean, those kids hit it far. So, and then I think my dad would view the TPC as a major now. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see the
coined as the 5th major, not official, but
yeah, I would love to see my dad's thought. And my dad clearly would have thought that Tiger Woods did the Grand Slam. This whole thing about the year, I don't think he would care. He had all 4 trophies.
Yeah, the Tiger Slam.
I mean, it's a slam. It's a slam. I don't know what my dad would say, but I'd say Tiger did it. I don't know if anybody was ever going to do it.
Yeah. There's a great story about your dad and I guess the challenge that he gave Artie before U.S. Open, where he was down a tremendous amount. I mean, it's a great story.
It's taken out of perspective a lot, because like you said, Phil, they didn't understand how close these players were. I mean, Arnold was one of his best friends. And what do you do to your best friends? You got to get under their skin a little bit, So it sounds, in retrospect, what he said, mean-spirited, but he's trying to pump up his buddy.
Yeah.
They played 36 on Saturday. They wouldn't play on Sunday. So he just played the 3rd round, eating his burger, and Arnold says, if I shoot this number, I win the Open. That's it. You got no chance. Hogan might be able to do that. You got no chance. And he was doing it to pump up his friend. And I always hate when the story is said that, like, he meant it. He was rooting with all his heart for Arnold Palmer to win. And the funniest story I heard, sports writers are famous for watching it inside, and not going out on course sometimes. Well, Dan Jenkins and my dad went out after Arnold started birdieing, like, he almost drove the first green after being so mad at my dad. And then he's birdieing his brains out. And Arnold looked over at Dan and my dad and goes, I knew I'd get you fat guys out here. In other words, just the rapport is so different. And, I was flying on Arnold's plane. I mean, that wouldn't happen today, with the writers, and it was just a much closer relationship. And, when he became his ghostwriter, he wrote books, signed by Arnold Palmer, by my dad, and he became kind of like an advocate the same way Hobie Keeler was for Bobby Jones. So it was a great relationship. But Arnold was somebody special. I mean, I don't know anybody that when I meet him, don't see him for a few years, and he'll go, "Hey Kevin, how's your mom, MJ? How's your sister Debbie, Denise, Donna, and Bob?" Who does that?
Yeah.
He had that talent. So I would say, if Arnold doesn't get the credit for creating the Pro Grand Slam, my dad won't get it either. So I think we got to concentrate on giving Arnold the credit. And I'm not sure he gets the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
He was there's people that did not go to the Open Championship because it was expensive. You had to qualify. And I think the story goes, Walter Hagen called Deke Palmer and said, Arnold's got to go. And so Arnold listened to his dad and went.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he kind of changed the way people look at the Open Championship.
You grew up in Pittsburgh, 12 years old, moved. What was the transition that led to you moving to Pinehurst?
Well, I was the youngest of 5, and, my dad was in public relations. That's what golf writers did in those days. So we really moved from Pittsburgh, and we lived in New Jersey a little bit. And he would, in those days, PR was getting Mickey Mantle to show up at a cocktail party, and he could do that. So I grew up. I didn't really grow up in Pittsburgh. I love the town. I mean, I think I'm a huge. Art Rooney was my godfather.
Yeah.
So going
how
to
cool was
Steelers,
that?
I'd be taking the Steelers game, sitting in the owner's box. But what happened was my dad liked warm weather, and he came here for the Ryder Cup in the 50s. And he also came here to watch Arnold play in the North-South. And Arnold was at Wake, so he used to come down here. And then he decided to move the family down here, but he didn't tell me. He sent me to the golf school. I went to the golf school with the famous Frank Palumbo. If anybody doesn't know him, he was the first teaching professional.
The Palumbo Cup.
Palumbo Cup, yeah. And then he said, "How do you like it down there, Kev?" I said, "I love it." I said, "Well, good. We're moving there." So 12, we moved here. So it means, I'm a 51-year resident, and I've seen a lot. And I feel like we always felt we were what we are today. In other words, what we are today, everybody thinks it's kind of just come out of nowhere. Well,
yeah.
I used to tell people I lived in the home of golf, and they'd say, "You live in Augusta?" No. "You live in Myrtle Beach?" "No." "You live in Pebble Beach?" "No." I said, I used to get in like fights. "No, I live in the home of golf, Pinehurst." And we always knew we were that. We always were secure with that, and now we've really come into our own.
It's changed enormously in your time. In as concise a way you can. How has Pinehurst changed in your time?
Main Street, where the Drum Quill is, looks the same as it did when I was a kid. That's the funny part about all this. They say it's changed. What's changed is traffic. You used to see like peach trucks on Highway 5, and maybe a few chicken trucks, but but we didn't have McDonald's when I was a kid here. Just think about that. It was. But
we're getting a Target now. So we really are.
Yeah, we're big. But we were just. We were more like one place, I think. Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, West End was part of it. I'd go to West End as a kid, and we'd hang out everywhere. It was more of one place, and now we're like multiple cool places. But what the starkest thing for me was everyone knew everyone. I mean, and there's no need to. I mean, if I was walking down Linden, we lived in an old Tufts cousin house, and one of Tufts' nephews out on Linden Road. We called it Turkey Farm. It was out there in Peach Orchard on Linden Road, and I'd walk down the street, and someone pick me up, take me into town, and all the kids would hang out at the Carolina Pool. That was where the kids hung out, and it was just a different time. It was Mayberry.
Yeah.
But it was the golf capital of the world, and part of our job was to say welcome to all these people visiting. I mean, it wasn't unusual for me as a kid for my dad to send me to Lundy's Shoe Repair to get a pair of shoes for a hotel guest. Now, what do I have to do with that? I have nothing to do with this, but the residents were part of the welcoming committee. I think that's changed, and I think, we're looked more as a retirement community a lot, but really we're a resort, and our job is to welcome people. And, it's always been put in my head that, hey, welcome, where are you from? I know someone from up there. It wouldn't be unusual for me to know the same person of someone that visits and get a better connection with a visitor. And I've literally have had such connections with visitors where I played their club, and so I was brought up in the era where you just welcome these guests, and you do everything you can to make them come back, and they're coming back as homeowners, and things like that. So different era.
I know you love to play golf, and I know you love to walk.
Yeah.
How important it is for you in the game of golf to be able to walk. You look at golf a little bit differently than most people. I think people play competitively, but you're almost a philosopher when it comes to the game of golf. and the pure essence of it.
Life lessons. My dad always said that if you play by the rules, you'll get a free drop, and that equates to life pretty good. And so, I'm still having trouble with the rules, by the way. I'm not the best. The Tin Whistles is helping me as a member. They really work hard on the rules, and I got to get better at it. But I just love going out there, walking number 2 on a brisk day like today, when not many people are out there. And just, you ask people will say something like, God, wasn't that hard. Well, what did you shoot? They shot a high score. And did you use every club in your bag? Yeah, I did. That's what the magic of number 2 is. But, golf just to me is about friendships. It's not always about the score. It's about having a tighter relationship with people and cutting together with friends. And it's a great bonding experience. And I got my wife playing because she thought it was about the game, just about playing golf. And then she realizes now it's bigger than that. It's 4 hours outside without your phone. It's the camaraderie, the fun. I mean, we're seeing red-tailed hawks trying to get those squirrels, and those squirrels are outwitting them. I mean, it's just golf is a perfect day. And as painful as it can be when you're not playing well, you always get the next hole to play well. So, no, I'm just passionate about being able to play. And I think I'm one of those guys that took it for granted because I was in the golf business, and then golf was my business. So why would I want to play? I started to kind of fall out of golf, and then I just said, what an idiot you are. And you live in the home of golf. So I'm playing as much as I can now. Yeah. But you take it for granted when you live in Pinehurst. I don't want to do that anymore. I mean, I don't want to take anything for granted. I mean, we're so lucky. Not a bad golf course here.
No, and I tell people this is such a unique destination. Unlike Kiawah Island, Sea Island, Pebble Beach, St. Andrews. St. Andrews, we're very, kind of a mirror of each other from different parts of the pond. But what is it about Pinehurst? What is it? What do you think that made the USGA want to move here? The World Golf Hall of Fame coming back. Yeah. There was an attraction to this destination. It is unlike any other golf destination in the world. Well,
like my dad was on the board of the first Hall of Fame that started here, and it was just a logical place because, very few clubhouses have 5 courses coming out of one clubhouse. I mean, that's a starting place. Very few clubs were promoting women's golf when Pinehurst was doing it since inception. And Mr. Tufts was the president of the USGA. I mean, so the connections are really there if you want to look for them. Yeah. And why it happened the way it is.
And some people thought it started in '99 with the U.S. Open, but it goes, as you said, Mr. Tufts and the USGA.
Well, I think, I mean, he didn't like professional golf. When he was into amateur and the amateur creed.
Yeah, amateur creed is right there with the trophies.
And, I wish I could recite it right now, but he was really into amateur golf, and so amateurism is what the USGA is about. Me too. I mean, they have professional events, but you think about Mr. Tufts wrote the amateur creed, and who represents amateur golf? The USGA. And so it's really logical. A lot of big decisions happen in Pinehurst, impacting the USGA. And, I always say, people say, and this area of golf's a matter of life and death. Well, here it's more important than life and death.
It's our lifeblood.
It's much more important than life and death. I'm sorry, you might be talking about some other destination.
It's our DNA.
It's really our DNA. I like the après golf too. I mean, I like what we could do after golf. I mean, I like a good club sandwich and a beer afterwards. So, I mean, with everything that's wrapped around golf, there's clubs, there's pools, there's tennis, there's pickleball. I mean, I like the golf club experience, and it's more well-rounded than just golf. I mean, the Cradle is a good example. Yeah. And a short course and bringing people in the game, and This'll do, putting. I mean, and so I think that, we just we just think it's just much more important to us here, and it's always has been. I mean, it just always has been.
You've seen where Pinehurst has been, where we are, and but where do you think we're going with the USJ moving here? And I remember Tom Pashley and we had even mentioned that it was a total game changer for the USJ to move here, their second headquarters. We're an anchor site for the U.S. Open. We'll have U.S. Opens in 24, 29, 35, 41, and 47. $2 billion economic impact to the state of North Carolina for the next 25 years. Where do you see this destination going over the next 25 years?
Maybe this sounds
big question,
cocky, but I think it's kind of manifest destiny. We're just going where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be going this way. This is where we should be. This is where we should be positioned. And I was on the city council, and I had couldn't tell my wife about anything. Operation Woodpecker is what it was called, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it. And I had explained the importance of this to other people, and it was just a very proud moment for me. I mean, I got really emotional. It was like, this is everything my dad said was going to happen here. And he kind of saw that vision of. He kept on yelling at the USJ, how come you don't have a U.S. Open there? And I'm in the, media room, probably not allowed, eating the free food. And my dad's yelling at the USJ, how come you're not having a U.S. Open in Pinehurst? You guys are idiots, And also you had other writers, because Golf World was published here. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. So you had Charlie Price, the famous Charlie Price. You had all kinds of great writers here, John Durr. And they all were saying the same thing, and they said, no, you guys can't handle that traffic, can't handle it. And my dad threw a weird line out. He said, well, they do 2 races at Rockingham, about 1 million people go. We can handle it. Doesn't sound like it relates, but he was just there. He was always pushing, how come we don't get a U.S. Open? And people think we've had a U.S. Open forever. We only had it since 99. Yeah. And but I'm really proudest that the Hall of Fame's coming back, because my dad served on that board. The Hall of Fame used to be at the Bank of America building right down by the Women's Exchange. He didn't like it when they built that big mausoleum down on the tee of number 5. And, that was, he felt like that would hurt it. It would lose its intimacy. So ironically, the USGA is building on like catty corner to where the original Hall of Fame is. Yeah. And they're going to put the Hall of Fame there. And, I've been fortunate. I was at the first Hall of Fame induction in 74. And you have a list of the people that were, it's a pretty impressive list. Look at this list.
And that was right here in Pinehurst.
Yeah. In 74, I was there, and Walter Hagen, Ben Hogan, Bobby Jones, Byron Nelson, Jack Nicklaus, Francis Ouimet, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Gene Sarazen, Sam Snead, and Harry Vard were inducted here in Pinehurst, not in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Here in Pinehurst. So that's pretty much the core of the start of the golf revolution right there.
Yeah.
And
a lot of golf history there.
So golf's just coming home.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it that way. Is it something new? Yeah. It's just coming home to where it should be. And I just see more manufacturers looking at smaller manufacturers maybe in support, maybe coming here. All clubs will be tested here. Turf grass, I mean, don't forget about that. I mean, the grass you buy at Lowe's is impacted by the USGA turf grass.
Right.
I'm very impressed with the partnership they're having with our community college.
And, that was just announced. Yeah.
North Carolina State, and also I think North Carolina
A&T.
Yeah. So I mean, this is much bigger than golf. This is about how to make better grasses, how to deal with the equipment issue, the golf ball issue, all those decisions we made here where they should be made. So what do I think the impact is we're fulfilling our destiny. I know that sounds like pretty cocky, but I just think we're fulfilling what is supposed to happen, what kind of my dad always thought would happen here.
Yeah. And that World Golf Hall of Fame will be part of the USGA, the 2 buildings that they will construct. I think the second floor
Right.
One of them about 9,000 square feet. It'll open before the 2024 U.S. Open. There'll actually be an induction ceremony. And I think, we were talking before this podcast, and you certainly can speak to it. Your father's kind of in it, but not really.
He's not in it. He's not in it. And not in it. He has a little document that he was one of the founders of the World Golf Hall of Fame here in Pinehurst. One of my goals is, because of his work as a journalist and a broadcast journalism, where a lot of people don't know this, the Drummers Beat was the first non-golf feature done on television to try to broaden the audience. He was trying to add some fun. Well, there were Stroke Savers by Ken Venturi, but he was talking non-golf, talking about, trying to grow the game. And I think the Drummers Beat did a good job on that, growing the game. He got an Emmy nominated for that. He's a accomplished sports writer, and obviously he was involved with immortalizing the pro Grand Slam. And his work with Arnold Palmer as his media guy in the early years, not forever, in his early years. I mean, so I hope to get him in the Hall of Fame. That's kind of my secret mission of I want the Drum Quill to be that bad penny. Don't forget Bob Drum. I mean, don't forget the other writers either. I mean, in my pub, you'll see the ones that were already in the Hall of Fame: Bernard Darwin. You have some other writers, Dan Jenkins. His picture's in my pub too. I mean, this is about honoring these people. If they didn't do their job, none of this happens. None of this. The USDA doesn't move here. I mean, what they did is, with their pen and their little manual typewriters, they made these players into legends. And without them, now we're seeing it kind of live in broadcast journalism. But I miss the writers. We still get to see them here. A lot of them live here.
Would your dad have done social media?
Well, I think I love Dan Jenkins' tweets. So if Dan could do it, I think my dad could do it. I just don't think he would pass the censor.
What would he think of Live Golf?
I think that, it's hard to get my head around it. I think I don't know what he'd think. I think that he knows golf is 4 rounds, so I think that he'd question that. This whole team thing. I mean, he did help bring they do match play now. They did the Liggett. He was one of the tournament directors for the Liggett Myers match play that was played at CCNC, kind of the test whether match play would work. And it really didn't work well, but they were seeing the future. Now match play, the match play is really an important event. But I think that he'd have a hard time wrapping around about people that have no skin in the game, already paid. And, he always liked people having to earn it. Yeah. And so I don't know what he'd think, but, I think we're all trying to figure it out and wait and see. But I mean, until it's 4 rounds and you have to win to make money, I'm not sure that he endorsed that as something you should get points for playing a major. I don't see him doing that.
One thing we do know, you are the owner of the Drum Quill restaurant. You are passionate about tourism. We appreciate that from our perspective as we do what we do for a living here at the CVB. But talk about if somebody were to come to Pinehurst for the first time and they're going to come play golf, what else would you recommend they do when they come to the destination?
Well, go to the archives in Pinehurst and get to see some of the history, kind of soak it in. Go more than Pinehurst. I love Southern Pines. I love Aberdeen. We're all in this together. I always send, it wouldn't be unusual for me at Drum Quill to send some customers over to Southern Pines. Mm-hmm. I think in a big picture way. But I think you're seeing a rise of something else happening here. Sporting clays are now available in about 3 different places, and I hope to see the golf destination and that product kind of make us more like we were in the past. We
have a history with Annie Oakley, and
we have a history of Annie Oakley being here. We had the Gun Club was where number 8 is, and those products exist out there, and I'd like to see that more integrated. I mean, I'd like to see the other part of the county more involved. I mean, maybe kayaking and whitewater rafting. I'd love to see us develop the destination into what they used to call this a Mid-South resort. This was really a destination designed. Mr. Tufts had a vision of an affordable destination. Well, he was rich. He didn't have to do that. Okay. His destination was halfway between Boston and Florida for a reason, because, you know, all wealthy people were going to Florida,
right,
but the people could afford going here. And it was really a mid-South resort where it was about horses. It was about outdoor activity. So, you know, I'd like to see our pathways for biking be better. A lot of people have these motor-assisted bikes that all of a sudden, me as a 63-year-old can bike the Southern Pines, which I couldn't before. And so I think we got to develop our tourism product so you could do anything you could think of outside. Golf is we did so well in COVID because we're an outdoor sport.
Yep.
Just think of everything you could do outside. That's what I'd like to see us develop. But
their greenways. I mean, the greenway system in Pinehurst is great, and we're trying to connect them with Southern Pines, Aberdeen. So I think the municipalities are working well together to try and
I'd like to see Midland Road, which the right of way already exists, connect and be a great bike ride. And so, I mean, I'm passionate about that type of stuff. And, you know, to me, the Drum Quill was about adding another layer to the tourism destination. Sure, it's a business. It's, you know, about making money, but there was no celebration of golf riders. And we're in the golf home of American golf. I wanted to do it. And there's another project I'm working on. And I'm just trying to add another layer, always trying to add another layer to the tourism product. Because we're a tourism destination, and you know, I just don't want us to totally buy into being a retirement destination. I want to make sure that we're always welcoming guests.
It's funny because some people think, well, we're becoming a resort destination. We've been a resort destination since 1895.
Pretty much,
and,
And I'm a little worried that you know, I don't want to become a Del Webb retirement community. So I'm a little worried, but also respect the issues involved with that. I respect.
I don't know if that'll happen. I think, you know, those days are gone by. You've got the military, strong influence. You've got, you know, a distillery coming here that's owned by Army Heritage. I mean, their breweries outside of Pinehurst outside of the brewery in Pinehurst. I mean, all owned by ex-Special Forces, Army Ranger, Green Beret. Mike is doing a great job with Southern Pines Brewing Company. He's going to transform that buggy factory in Carthage into a great two-story.
I'm excited about that. You know, getting Carthage in the mix. I've always been about the whole county. I mean, because we used to hang out everywhere. I mean, you know, I was used to go up in the middle of the woods to hear bluegrass on Tuesday nights. You know, and I mean, and up in Manus Pottery.
I was going to say that's exactly what you were talking about.
And you know, so I mean, I like all that. I think if you look to the past, you could figure out what we need for the future. But the breweries are great. I mean, I love Southern Pines. I love Pinehurst and Hatchet and you know, I like the Rail House and all that. And I'm really excited about the new distillery. I'm looking forward to working with them at my pub.
Yeah, and I think you know, the connection between us and Raleigh with Highway 1. I mean, we keep getting closer and closer. Natalie Hawkins and Economic Development Partners in Progress can speak to, you know, Wolf Speed and VinFast and Apple. You know, all these industries are going to be moving to Raleigh or just north of us. The northern end of Moore County is going to impact in a big way. Right.
It will impact us even if it's not here. So, I mean, you know, all these things, when I grew up there was manufacturing everywhere. It was textiles. But, you know, people have asked me, you know, do you see it coming back? Yeah, I see it coming back. It might not be, you know, it might be out there in the 211 corridor or the 74 corridor or 15501 North, but it'll still be people living here and help our economy. I see all that happening. And, you know, you look to the past, what happened here in the past is a good way to see how it could happen in the future. I mean, you know, we had manufacturing plants all along, Procter Silex. And so we could I'd like to see that stuff come back. I mean, I'd like the agricultural side of this community. People don't talk about it much. I mean, you get fresh made cheese and incredible vegetables and you know, I mean, we have agricultural base. I mean, I see some old pictures of like wagons coming into Pinehurst selling vegetables. I mean, don't forget about that. I mean, we farm to table. I mean,
Mark Elliott's tourism here. Mark Elliott's doing a great job.
Chef Warren, they're all doing a great job on this farm to table stuff. I mean, I just respect our visitor and make sure we deliver on the promise of being a great place to visit. And that's all we got to do. And our future is incredibly bright.
And before we let you go, we got to let you talk about Drum Quill. When people come to town, burgers are great. One of your bartenders told me to have the Korean beef tacos. It was like, I got it 3 times in a row. It was so good. Talk about Drum Quill, where we can find you.
Sure.
And Drum
Quill is located at 40 Chinkapin Road in the middle of town. I said it, named after my dad, Bob Drum, and the quill represents the pen. And we're just trying to be a traditional tavern that my dad's friends and the golf writers would recognize. So, we have a full bar, great old fashioned, and I think the pork nachos are like the number one selling item. I don't think anybody can finish them. And we probably should do a contest. If you could finish these, get it for free or something. But no, we're a well-rounded tavern. We've been voted the most authentic tavern in Moore County. So I'm very proud of that.
Well, we'll certainly be there. We encourage everybody to go. I will tell you one last thing. Jerry Dulac, who hosts a golf show in Pittsburgh at ESPN Radio Pittsburgh, a big close tie to the Steelers, him and his crew came and did dinner at Drum Quill, and you held court for about an hour.
Yeah, we were telling stories.
Oh, my gosh. You were telling stories. and we left, and the producer said, we could do a whole hour with Kevin Drum, just Kevin. And so we could definitely do that, Kevin. We'll need to have you back.
Thank you very much for having me, Phil. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate all you do for the destination. And
Come visit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see you next time. If you want to learn more about the destination, go to homogolf.com. For this vodcast, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Home of American Golf. And of course, if you want to check the podcast, go to your favorite podcatcher. We usually go to Spotify and listen to this show, Paradise in the Pines. For Kevin Drum, I'm Phil Wirtz. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.